I begin in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. All praise belongs to Him, and all of us have to return to Him. Today we are discussing Surah Al-Qari'ah 101, and I have understood it like this, that the fundamental theme of this surah is divine evaluation of human deeds. The central theme of this surah is what we can call as Inzar-e-Akhirat, that is, warning of the Day of Judgment, Qiyamah, and connected with that, human accountability in the life hereafter. The Holy Quran has some groups of small one stanza ayat with fast rhyming words and an overall theme. One such group of small ayat is this: Surah Zilzal, Surah Adiyat, Surah Qari'ah, and Surah Takasur. In Zilzal and Qari'ah, the emphasis is on Day of Judgment and accountability as well as final placement. In Surah Adiyat and Takasur, the emphasis is on human habit of being thankless to the Almighty and the human greed for more and more. Friends, such surahs serve as quick capsule tonic, keeping the soul robust as a preventive measure against any dereliction. Hafiz Jalandhari, the famous poet of yesteryears, says, सरकशी ने कर दिए धुंधले नकूशे बंदगी, आओ सजदे में गिरें लौहे जबी ताज़ा करें. Straying from the path of devotion and humility through disobedience to the Almighty can obscure the signs of one's submission to the Divine. So, prostration serves as a return to sincerity, humility, and spiritual renewal. Friends, here prostration is actually depicting the overall meanings of observance of God's injunctions throughout life. Now, friends and children, the word Qari'ah means to hit something on something else. And when we add al in the beginning, al-Qari'ah, that becomes a proper noun and it means that particular strike. This word has appeared thrice here in this surah and twice elsewhere in the Holy Quran in two other surahs. Surah 69 is known as Al-Haqqa. So there also, like here in Surah Al-Qari'ah, 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 Wama Adraka Mal-Qari'ah in the beginning. So there also it is Al-Haqqa, Mal-Haqqa, Wama Adraka Mal-Haqqa. So it's mostly rhyming. And also in that surah, the word Qari'ah appears. And in Surah Ra'd also there is a mention of the word Qari'ah, and there it is in the sense of slightly different meanings, meaning thereby as disasters is smaller in intensity than Qiyamah. Mal-Qari'ah means what is that striking phenomenon? The Almighty is asking us, He is posing the question so that we are set thinking. Then again, in His characteristic style, the Almighty is saying, Vama adraka mal qari'ah. How can you know as to what that punching thing is, in order to further enthuse us with the way of thinking and trying to imagine what it could be. Actually, it would be in the form of a trumpet, as mentioned in Surah Namra 27.87, referring to it as nafkha faza. It says, "Warn of the day, the horn will be blown, and whoever is in the heavens and whoever is on the earth will be terrified, except whom Allah wills, and all will come to him humbled." एक तरह से घबराहट में सारे के सारे मुर्दे अपने अपने कब्रों से निकल पड़ेंगे, जहाँ भी हैं, जिस फॉर्म में हैं, वो सब निकल पड़ेंगे एकदम से घबरा करके. Similarly, Surah Hajj 22.1 mentions the term nafkha sa'a. O mankind, fear your Lord. Indeed, the convulsion of the final hour is a terrible thing. And there the commentators have said, after this trumpet is sounded, then everybody will die. Of course, except those whom God has willed not to. Surah Zumar 39.68 has called it Nufikha fi Sur. The trumpet will be blown, and all those in the heavens and all those on the earth will fall dead, except those Allah wills to spare. Then it will be blown again, and they will rise up at once, looking on in anticipation of what's going to happen. In this regard, Surah Yasin 36.52 says, people will cry and they will say, woe to us! Who has raised us up from our place of rest? This must be what the most compassionate, the Almighty, warned us of. And even the messengers told us the truth. So, let us recapitulate that after a while the trumpet will sound again and people will rise again. And this time, this sound has been referred to in the Holy Quran in different places as Sayha or Zajra or Nuqira fin Naqur. This episode of the trumpet sound has been referred to as Nafkha Hashr. The Holy Quran says in Surah Al-Qamar 54.6, wait for the day when the caller will summon them for something horrifying. Now friends, we move on to the next ayat, يَوْمَ يَكُونُ النَّاسُ كَالْفَرَاشِ الْمَبْثُوثِ, the next ayat of Surah Al-Qari'ah. It is the day people will be like scattered moth. And the subsequent ayat says, وَتَكُونُ الْجِبَالُ كَالْعِهْنِ الْمَنْفُوشِ, and the mountains will be like sheared wool. In this photo, which you have just now seen, the sheared wool is lying on the ground on both sides. So mountains will become like that. About the divine treatment of the mountains around the Day of Judgment, the Almighty has mentioned something or the other in about 10 surahs. But here I am mentioning 3 of them. In Surah Kahf, God says, I will make mountains move. In Surah Taha, He says, He will split into these mountains into smithereens, small, very small particles. Reza kar dega. And in Surah Naml, God says that the mountains will be floating at that time like the clouds. You imagine when we travel in the aircraft and pass through the clouds. So clouds at that time have no significance, nothing. So mountains will become like that. In Surah Al-Kahf 18.47, Allah Ta'ala says, beware of the day. We will blow the mountains away, and you will see the earth laid bare, and we will gather all humankind. Then the next ayat reads like this, of course, Surah Al-Qari'ah. فَأَمَّا مَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَهُوَ فِي عِيشَةٍ رَاضِيَةٍ. This word, mawazinu, that you have to keep especially carefully in mind. God says, so as for those whose scale is heavy, of course with good deeds, they will be in a life of bliss. وَأَمَّا مَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُمُّهُ هَاوِيَةٌ. As for those whose scale is light, their home will be the abyss. In Surah Anbiya 21.47, God says, that day Allah will install the scale, the balance, and those items that are to be weighed. So you have to very carefully try to understand this. He specially mentioning 2 things, 2 items. He will install the scale or the balance, as well as He will install those items that are to be weighed. Now we have to discuss about this. What are those items? Surah Al-A'raf 8.9 explains this. وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذِ الْحَقِّ. Wazn, that is weight, only will be the deciding factor. And it also means that haqq only, that is the truth only, will have the weight. I had requested you earlier that please keep this Quranic term in mind, mawazinu. So mawazin means those acts which are prompted only by good intentions and with faith in the Creator. Only such deeds will be evaluated for the purpose of placement ultimately in the life hereafter. Children, today we also have spring balance and even computerized balances, scales. Surely, those who denied the Rabb and meeting Him on the Day of Judgment, though they did keep doing good things, good deeds in the world, but their deeds will have no weight. For the purposes of divine evaluation of deeds, the first dimension will be apparent data, the data that normally appears to the human mind. I and you know about it. What is the data? Which deeds we have done? How much value each deed has? Okay? Or how much dislike have I earned from the Almighty for any particular deed, etc. So I am aware of that. So based on that, I know about the apparent data. the divine addition to that will be the second dimension of evaluation of human deeds, and that is the human intention or the niyat. That is in the form of an isomeric element. Said the Prophet, peace be upon him, innamal amalu bin niyyati. Motive determines the value of all conduct. Surah Al-Adiyat 100.10, God says, وَحُسِّلَ مَا فِي الصُّدُورِ. And on the day of judgment, even the secrets of the hearts will be laid bare. Not only the human bodies will be extracted and will be presented before the Almighty, but even the smallest ideas, positive or negative, and thoughts which have ever passed through a human heart, that will also be extracted and presented on the computer screen of the Almighty. Consequently, there is a possibility that all deeds of a particular human being get multiplied by 0 and their end value becomes 0. Maybe the secrets of the heart reveal that good deeds were done not for pleasing Allah by a particular individual, but these were done for self-aggrandizement or riya, that is dikhawa, showing off, which Allah does not like. So, good deeds get multiplied by 0 and the end result is 0. Surah Ibrahim says that such deeds are like a mound of ash, and that too would be blown off. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us try to understand the third dimension. Is there a cutoff for the divine evaluation of human deeds? That is indicated in the term Saqulat Mawazinuhu that has been used in this particular surah. Yes, there is a cutoff, but that cutoff is not the same for all human beings. Different human beings are born with different sets of circumstances. In Surah Baqarah 2.286, Allah Ta'ala says, La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah does not charge a soul except with that within its capacity. So there is a special concept, a divine term, wus'at, wus'aha, which God has referred to here. We'll talk more about it. Every individual will be evaluated in accordance with his or her wus'at. Someone inherits diffidence and another person inherits confidence. One individual inherits low intelligence, another inherits high intelligence. Similarly, another related term finds mentioned in the Holy Quran in this regard. Surah Bani Israel 17.84. Allah Ta'ala says, O Prophet, everyone acts according to his intrinsic makeup, the state in which he is in, his own creed, and predominant natural disposition in his station. These are explanations and interpretations given by the famous commentators of the Holy Quran of the term Shakila, which God has used in the Holy Book. And Allah Ta'ala goes on, and your Lord knows best who is better guided in this regard. Children, here I'll sit back and think of William McDougall, who was born in England and lived and died in the United States. He was a psychologist who became a US citizen and taught at Harvard and Duke universities. According to him, the human personality combines two factors: genes and environment of birth. To that, the Holy Quran adds a precious third dimension, that is, every individual has also been given discretion. Shakila is like skin. Within Shakila, human being has discretions to exercise. And the Creator knows very well who is born with what wus'ah and with what Shakila, and how well she or he used his or her discretion, to what extent, and with what niyat, that is intention. In this manner, there will be complete equity of evaluation. Thus, even at the risk of repetition, let us mention Surah Anbiya 21.47. That day Allah will install the scale as well as all those items that are to be weighed. In Surah Al-Furqan, Allah talks of Haba al-Mansura, deeds that would be treated as dust dispersed, and these hold no weight in the afterlife. Such deeds shall not be evaluated. And in the end, Surah Al-Qari'ah mentions, وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا هِيَ نَارٌ حَامِيَةٌ. And what will make you realize what that is? It is a blazing fire. Thus we have noticed that Al-Qari'ah ends at Narun Hamiyah. It is a blazing fire. And Surah Takasur talks of La Taravunnal Jahim Summa La Taravunnaha Ainal Yaqeen. You will surely see the hellfire. You will see it with the eye of certainty. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين.